Greetings and good Tuesday morning, the 5th of September. 5 September, good God. Where's the time going, right? So it's September 5th, 2023, still the third decade of the 21st century. If for any reason you're new to my channel, I always highlight the fact that it is the third decade of the 21st century as if to sort of make reference to we're literally in the 21st century, and not just the 21st century, but the third decade. And then I always say that to kind of be like, and what are we dealing with? What are we talking about as a society? What sort of things are popular? What are we dealing with as human beings on this little sphere we call Earth, right? Well, if you're not new to my channel, or if you check out any of my back catalog content, I do tend to follow a bit of repetition, because a lot of what I do is I'll offer my thoughts, views, and opinions on a particular subject, and then I'll ask questions to which I don't always get a lot of responses, so maybe that's why I feel like I don't have closure, because I don't get a lot of responses, but I digress. I've mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again, but maybe I'll try a different approach. As you can imagine, I have not completely cut off socio-political commentary. Oftentimes I will have it on in the background while I work. Case in point, I'm trying to get ready for work as we speak. You know, kids are older now. I got a kid in college, and I got a kid who's a sophomore who really don't need me that much, but you know, the habit of still getting up in the morning is still there. So I digress. I feel like if I had to sum it up, I would probably say that what we're experiencing right now in the third decade of the 21st century is an unadulterated lack of fear over consequences. That we have begun to promote a sense of behavior that is rooted in cathartic narcissism, as in you feel a great burden lifted off your chest when you are somewhat egocentric or narcissistic. Like, this is how I feel. I care or I don't care. This is how I identify, whatever. And like you feel like this great burden's been lifted, while at the same time not caring at all about the consequences. And I think that normal fear of consequence that we used to carry with us, like we used to think about our actions, and the people that did not, the people that were always referred to as somebody who needs to look before they leap, I feel like a lack of consequence could really sort of provide a good foundation for a lot of what we're dealing with today in any way, shape, or form. You know, take media outlets. Is it possible, plausible, that media outlets have always put their own twist on a story to support a narrative? Sure. Was it so overtly obvious? Was it so plainly seen? Was it, you know, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this, but like, where in the past it may have been subtle, and when I mean subtle, like, you'd have to be on the inside to know. You'd have to be on the inside to understand what they're doing to manipulate a story, where now I think it's just so overt. And if you need an example for clarity, I'll give you one. Albeit very sensitive, I'll give you one. In the last couple of years, we've had some incidences of mass violence. There was a protest in Charlottesville where a driver ran into a crowd, and as soon as they found out the descriptive factors of that driver being a white male, probably heterosexual, we instantly had motive, we had a narrative, we had, I don't know, manifestos. I mean, we had everything we needed to formulate an opinion and formulate judgment in the court of public opinion, so on and so forth. And then juxtapose that against the driver in Wisconsin on the heels of the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, who plowed into a predominantly white parade and was a black male. All of a sudden, the brakes are hit hard, and you almost go flying through the windshield as you're jerked back by the seatbelt. And now we have to formulate, well, what really happened? Was it a vehicular malfunction? Did he sneeze? Was he texting and driving? Because with the white driver, it's automatically a hate crime, it's this, that, or the other. But now with the black driver, there's a chance that they're not going to pursue it as a hate crime, and like it could be an actual accident. So, you know, in those particular instances right there, it's so obvious, it's so plain to see that they're banking on the fact that there's a large enough population in America that don't care, because it's candy to the ears, that it's what they want to hear. They want to hear all about white, heterosexual, male evil, and how everybody who's not white or male or heterosexual is really just a victim trying to get back what was taken from them. The shooters, the most recent one in Jacksonville, Florida, instantly it's a white heterosexual male. We have Nazi affiliation, white supremacist affiliation, we have manifestos, we have intent, it's a terror attack, it's a hate crime, it's whatever. We have all of this. But then I want to say it was Tennessee, maybe? It might have been I can't remember, where the person didn't fit those descriptive factors, and now we have to do a deeper dive. So in the third decade of the 21st century, as long as it's a white heterosexual male, we instantly have everything we need. But if it's not somebody who fits those descriptive factors, more research needs to be conducted, more investigations need to be conducted. And it's overtly obvious. It's so plainly obvious. You know, I was listening to Tim Pool the other day on Timcast IRL, and the gentleman that was stabbed to death in the DC area, who apparently was considered right-leaning versus left-leaning, well, instantly, because it's a white right-leaning individual, we have to do an investigation. We have to figure out what's going on. There's no motive, there's no anything, there's a gap in information. But had it have been somebody else, preferably on the left, non-white, non-heterosexual, non-male, all three, you never know, we probably instantly would have had more information than we have now. And I think, you know, when it comes to the media, this fear, this zero fear of consequence, this complete lack of repercussions, is giving them this sense of invulnerability to operate freely. And then if we sort of switch it up a little bit, right? Something else I heard, and I'm going to kind of stay in the same vein of conversation if you work with me here. Something else I heard was that from like the late 80s all through the 90s, and even the third, you know, even the 21st century, you have a whole group of adults, to include young adults, that have grown up in front of a camera because technology became more affordable, technology became more widespread. So now you have all these home movies, or, you know, clips on cameras or what have you, and I can't refute it, because just within my own family alone, I've got a cousin who had 3 kids, got divorced, married another woman, she had a kid, she was divorced, together they had a kid, and in both cases my cousin's kids didn't live with him and his wife's kid didn't live with her, but now they have their own kid together who lives with them and gets all the attention they're not able to give their other kids. And if I showed you my cousin's social media, 99% of my cousin's social media is his youngest child. So I can only imagine what that's doing to the psychological development of his youngest child. I mean, some of what I hear from his oldest child, who I'm in contact with, I don't want to give out any more information than that, I don't want to skyline anybody. His youngest half brother is a bit of a douche, or has douchey qualities. And I'm not necessarily saying that's his fault, and I'm not necessarily saying that my cousin and his wife are deliberately trying to do that. It's just the technology's available. It's on your phone. You can do these things, and you may not understand the consequences of your actions. And I think that also has a big part to play, where there's a certain amount of ignorance, and I mean that in the positive sense, where we're not consciously aware of the long-term effects of what we're doing. It's not just cathartic narcissism. It's not just something else. It's we don't know that there could be long-term effects. So our ignorance is also contributing to the lack of consequences. And part of the reason I bring that up is I feel like with my day-to-day observations and my day-to-day interactions, a lot of individuals I deal with who are in the military, I mean, professionally I deal with military individuals, and one might think of certain stereotypes that come to mind when it comes to military individuals. And in my professional and personal opinion, I don't know that today's military personnel are living up to those attributes, be it positive or negative. There used to be what I would call the consensus of civility, where we as a society had an agreed upon standard of what is civil, how we conduct ourselves, how's it, a casual greeting, a little bit of eye contact, the acknowledgement of somebody there, whether in passing, like when you're walking on the streets or on a sidewalk or whatever the case may be. Hey, how you doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What's up? How's it going? Just a, not to quote Avatar, but like, I see you or whatever. I probably did that wrong, but oh well. Like, I see you, I acknowledge your existence. Basic standards of civility that we used to practice. And I'd like to think that during my time in the military, especially when I was younger, we used to hold it to a higher degree where, the whole thing was, if you were ever accused of being in the military, is there enough evidence to convict you? And I got to tell you, a lot of the service members I deal with nowadays, they don't have the basic understand. They don't have basic civility. I mean, when a young kid comes in and he's on his first contract, which basically makes him college age, 18 to 22, and he's man, dude, buddy, broing me, wrong answer, homie, wrong answer. I mean, come on, just the white in my beard, right, should tell you that I have a few more rotations around the sun than you do. All right, the way I was raised, the way that I was more or less thought to believe was that is a sir or a ma'am. All right, that's how you address somebody who's older than you. All right, now that doesn't necessarily mean that they're automatically wiser or more mature. Just you acknowledge the fact that you've lived longer, and good morning, good afternoon, sir, ma'am, what have you. And I've noticed that a lot of these young kids that I deal, and I say kids because I could have fathered a bunch of them now. There's what I call a lack of civility. There is a lack of human decency. There's a lack of what could qualify as appropriate conduct. And I'm curious if anybody else sees it as well. I'm curious if anybody else of my generation can see it as well. And I'm always trying really hard to be open-minded, because like when I travel around town with my family, my wife always has to drive. Ever since she got pregnant back to back with both of our sons, it's had a physiological effect on her where she gets motion sickness if she's not behind the steering wheel. So she does the lion's share of the driving if we're ever together. And it gives me the opportunity to observe. And I have observed all ethnic groups, all genders, all age brackets driving inconsiderately, which again I think falls back on this lack of consequences, this lack of fear in repercussions. Whether it's not paying attention, distracted driving. The one that blows my mind is the turn signals. I mean, I'm not a fucking mind reader, all right? You use your turn signal to communicate that you're going to fucking change directions. And it's like, in this town, because you have military service members from at least all over the Eastern time zone, if not some other places as well, you cannot blame it, in my opinion, on where they grew up. I do believe that at the federal level we have some agreed upon standards of how to drive legally, and I do believe turn signals are one of them. I'm just saying. I don't know. I feel like we're at a point right now in society where, because of this lack of consequences, this having zero fear to the potential repercussions of your actions, that it's breeding some really piss poor shitty behavior that I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, because you see things differently as you age, as you grow, as you experience more and more life, and you accumulate more experiences. You see the world differently. When 9/11 happened, I was 25, going on 26. I had my birthday in April of that year, so I had just turned 25 in April, and then September 11th happened, and my God, we're coming up, Jesus, we are 6 days away from the 22nd, and oh my God, the 22nd anniversary of September 11th. We're just 6 days away from. I don't know what our society was like. I don't know if I at my current age, my current experience level, if I could go back to 2001 for a significant period of time to observe enough life, if I would ultimately come to the same conclusion that, man, we need a great reset. And I don't know. I don't know, what the catalysts are. I don't know what was the original stone to cause the ripples in the pond. Some might say technology. I mean, you're not only dealing with a generation of people that have always had the internet as long as they can remember, or the internet has existed for the majority of their life, versus some people were born after the internet was more popular. I mean, I wasn't officially on the internet until 1998. That may seem like a long time ago for some people, but the internet had been around in some way, shape, or form longer than that. And I think by the time I got on, I think I was like AOL 3.0 maybe. But I didn't get on the internet until at least 1998, and I've had it ever since. So the internet could be one factor. Technology. I mean, we now carry computers as a phone. Our phone is not just a camera, it's a video recorder, it's a voice recorder, it's a computer linked to the internet. I mean, we have in some way, shape, or form instant gratification. I don't know if that is desocializing us. I have no idea. But I've also noticed too at the same time that we've also developed this mentality where, lacking in discretion, because discretion was brought on by a fear of consequences. So lacking in discretion, being cathartically narcissistic, being selfishly egocentric, I think that's also had a major impact. But you know what? I've been rambling on for over 18 minutes. I want to hear from you. My channel's small. I'm not in it for the money. I'm getting ready to go to work here soon. I'll probably have to publish this video from my personal computer at work, but I want to hear from you. Since I am a small channel, I don't get that many comments, therefore I am able to read, react, and respond to your comments out loud. And I will. If I get a comment, I will do just that. I'm not overly concerned about the subscriptions, the notifications, the likes. I mean, if you want, I could probably do a whole lot more to promote my channel, but really I'm just trying to increase conversation and recognize the fact that we don't all have to agree. If I didn't state that before, if you're new to my channel, I'm not necessarily on the right or the left. I have my own thoughts, views, and opinions, but I also recognize the fact that if I can feel one way about a subject and I think I'm a decent person, somebody else can feel the opposite way and still also think that they're a good person, and very well could be a good person. Why can't we talk? All right? So, if you leave a comment, I promise I will read, react, and respond, and if you do, you're awesome. Stay safe out there.